right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Let's Talk with Mel. I'm so excited to have you on here, and I am definitely looking forward to interviewing the amazing Lis Nerahoo. Now, for those who do not know Liz, she is a certified project manager who specializes in operations management. She's also a certified Six Sigma Green Belt and Scrum Master for Agile Project Management. Her achievements don't stop there. She's a certified management consultant, a well sought after designation which gives credence to her knowledge base and application. She serves as an adjunct lecturer at UCC and CMU, and she knows how to share her knowledge with others and build confident students ready to take on the world. She holds an MBA in Business Administration from the University of the West Indies and is an HR professional rethinking how JPS does human relations. This is actually the family that she's now a part of. When it comes to her extensive work experience, she has not 5 or 10 years, but 15 years in corporate management, leadership, and business process outsourcing. A superstar in the world of business, she's also a superstar in the Toastmasters world, which she joined just over 10 years ago. During this experience, she has served in various capacities, from executive roles to mentorship roles, and most recently, she is a Vice President Education for the Dynamic Speakers Club in District 81, Division B. She kickstarted her Pathways journey just in the last Toastmasters year, and she has charted the way forward. She won a triple crown for herself and her club, and she has done it again this year and has motivated so many of us to also achieve and reach for this goal. A regular presenter inside and outside of Toastmasters, she is passionate, energetic, and absolutely filled with knowledge to everyone and anyone who knows her. It is indeed my pleasure to kickstart our podcast series with interviewing the illustrious and vivacious Elizabeth Nerahoo. Let's make her welcome. Liz, it is a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for that warm introduction.
Just before we jump in, Liz, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? What makes Liz Liz?
What makes Liz Liz? I think it's just my passion for people, and I think it's just my passion to see persons succeed. And I get that because of my role in mentoring. The role of VP Ed also kind of fosters that, if you want to say, because I am responsible for the lives of about 40 members of our club. But not just that, even in my professional life, in terms of mentoring and being part of voluntary organization, I think that is really what the main driver is. I'm really encouraged to see persons achieve their potential. I know God has created everyone and has created everyone uniquely, and He has created everyone to succeed. And I think my role is to help people find their purpose.
All right, perfect. Oh my gosh, that's absolutely amazing. And I know that in your Toastmasters journey, you have served as a mentor for quite a number of persons. Could you share a little bit more with us about your mentorship experience and also the reason why you joined Toastmasters and you've stayed over these past few years?
Sure. Okay, so I joined Toastmasters back in 2010 when I left one corporate organization because I thought it was really cool to say, but I didn't realize that it was kind of overwhelming until we're doing an appraisal session. And my boss said to me, "Hey, Liz, do you know that you use the word so often?" And I said, and I wasn't even aware. And then he told me about Toastmasters. But it wasn't like until about 5 years after he had that conversation with me that when I left the organization and I was between jobs, I was doing a training session and I came across I went to do an exam for an insurance company and I saw a Toastmaster sign and I said, that's the same thing my boss told me about 5 years ago. So I went and inquired and I went to the first meeting. I liked it and I went back and I realized that there's so much opportunities there. And I stopped for a little bit to study.
Right.
And then I came back. But Toastmasters I've learned so much, not just in terms of developing my speaking skills or my communication skills, but I think Toastmasters, there's a whole sea of information that is just out there and opportunities for Toastmasters. And I actually found that with the mentorship aspect of it. I I am blessed to have had for the past 9 years a really wonderful mentor, somebody who saw something in me that I didn't see. And she kept working with me and providing that kind of guidance. She believed in me. She saw something that I didn't. And my responsibility is that whatever was poured into me by someone else, it's my responsibility to pour into someone else. And so I've been mentoring persons in Toastmasters for quite a number of years. Quite a few persons have passed through my hands. And it's really one of the most fulfilling roles. To mentor someone, to pour into their lives and to see them succeed. And so I've been mentoring over the years. And as far as Toastmaster goes, like I mentioned earlier, there's a whole sea of developmental opportunities in Toastmasters. And my role, I have transitioned most recently to the leadership aspect of it, having focused on the communication skills for a while. And I share with you a story, if I may, if I have
Yes,
the time.
please do.
All right. So I'd taken a little break on Toastmasters because I had gotten to the point of, I think, advanced communicator bronze. Yes. And I was partway through the silver communication. And I kind of got bored, I'm going to be honest with you, because it was just doing speeches, doing speeches. And I was sitting at my desk one day and Toastmaster Alston Watson came to look for me because we work at the same office and usually pops by my desk to say hi. On this one occasion, he stopped and he said to me, Liz, I see you have met your Toastmaster goal. So I looked at him quite puzzled, because I was wondering what he's talking about. And then he shared with me a story about a gentleman who, same thing, he had joined Toastmasters and he didn't turn up for a little bit. And then somebody said the same thing to him. And he said, yes, I wanted to overcome my arms and I have done that. So he has met his goal. But as I got home, I thought about what Toastmaster Alston said, and I realized that I didn't even start scratching my goals at Toastmasters because there is just so much to achieve. And I returned to Toastmasters. I started doing the speeches, I completed the ACS, and then I learned about pathways. And I got really excited about pathways because it was a new opportunity for me in terms of having been bored of the legacy program. And persons were saying to me, Liz, why don't you continue on the advanced gold? And I said, to what end? It's something that is going to die anyway. So why am I doing an advanced thing that is going to be extinct in the next couple of months? And so I started on pathways because it was new, it was exciting, it was new waters, and a lot of people didn't like it. And I like to take on a challenge, and so I started pathways. I fell in love with it. I became very curious about it, and then I realized that again, as I went further into pathways, I realized there's a whole new world of opportunity that opened up, and so I started being an ambassador for pathways, and I decided that I am going to try everything.
All right. So just before I ask my next question, can you just give a shout out to your mentor just so everyone in podcast land knows who you're talking about?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody knows that by now because every audience I get, I make sure that I mention. Toastmaster Carol Riley has been there for me from day one. And even when she also took a break, I could send my speeches to her. She would give really honest feedback. Sometimes they're not the feedback that you want to hear, but you know that it comes from a place of love. You know, like Solomon says, the slap of a friend is better than the kiss of an enemy. And so I can always depend on Toastmaster Carol to tell me, hey, Liz, that's not cutting it. Fix it up. And
Perfect.
and she has really been very good and very supportive over the years.
And then that's amazing, Liz, because I think you've also taken on some of her characteristics in your mentor personality. And just to speak about mentorship, I think you're also the very first Pathways mentor. You got the first Pathways mentor award
Yes,
in
yes,
Division B.
yes. And I didn't even realize it because because the thing about it, is that when you love something, when you're very passionate about something, I think Michael Jordan said that when you love what you do, it doesn't even feel like work.
Right.
Right. And I'm very passionate, just like Carol is,
Mm-hmm.
for persons that she has taken under her wings. When you mentor from a place of love and passion, it doesn't even become like you're really working on a target.
Right. I must ask though, Liz, for this Pathways Mentor Award, why is it so different from what we're used to in the Legacy program? Why should anyone take it up?
What I find is that it's much more structured, and even as a VP Ed, I'm hoping that I would have used some aspect of it, because the one in the mentorship program really just say to you, just take somebody on for 3 months and then and help them to achieve their goals. It's just that simple. But with the Pathways program, it's a little bit more structured, and it comes in 3 different parts. You
Okay.
have the introduction part,
Mm-hmm.
which is basic, and then you help a member to achieve a short-term goal. And then the third part is more advanced, because you're now going to work with this person for the next 6 months or
Okay.
somebody else. And it doesn't limit you to the club, it also takes you outside of the club. Now, during the period, because you have to have several meetings with your mentee or your protege, what it does is that it allows for you to build a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and you pour into, and you have to document it. And that's what I like about it, that you have the documented process. And that is why I like it. And you have to stick to it, because that's your commitment. And that's what really mentoring is all about, is that commitment. Just like my mentor has been with me for the last 9 years, the Pathways Mentorship Program allowed that you work with somebody for that period.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I really hope that everyone that's listening will go and look it up, research it, and decide to take it on. And of course, if they need any tips, they can talk to the guru, Lis Nerahoo.
Thank you.
All right. So I must ask you, Liz, you have served in a number of different roles. How has this actually assisted you in your own personal growth? I think you've served as Vice President Public Relations before, and you're now VP Ed. What does this do for you as an individual trying to grow and improve or better evolve?
Interesting you should ask that, because last year around about this time, I think we were doing the nomination team for our club, and I wasn't interested in the role of VP Ed, because I know it's one of the most difficult, and everything that I've read suggests that the role of VP Ed is the most difficult role there is. And actually, I didn't even think of it, because I really didn't want to serve on the executive at all, because my job can be very demanding, because as you see, I work in HR, also work with the engineers, and we had a lot of projects going on, so I really didn't want to commit to a very demanding role. So having worked on the executive as VP PR and VP membership, which was always quite simple, because if you know if you know your background to marketing and also to public relations, you can take on those roles. But VP Ed was kind of different for me, and even based on what I've seen, a lot of persons really don't like that role, for the main reason that it's very demanding on time. So I remember sitting in my living room a Sunday morning, and I think the Lord must have said to me, if not you, then who? And I'm like, I really don't want to take this on. I can't take this on. I have so much to do. So I said, I got up and I sent a mail to Toastmaster Andrew, and I said, you know what? All right, I'll do it. And I didn't know what to expect from the goal, but I did some research. Also, again, thanks to Toastmaster Alston, because I said to Alston, what does a VPE do? I mean, like, it just seemed like a chaotic role that nobody really likes. And he shared some insight, and that I have to commend Toastmaster Alston, because he's also a mentor for me over the years in terms of providing guidance. And he shared with me, also did some research on my own, and I realized that the role of VP Ed is one of the most fulfilling roles in Toastmasters, because it's like you're a pilot and you're responsible for the lives of these people. And just like when I joined Toastmasters to overcome a particular, well, not really to overcome, but to achieve a particular goal, as a VP Ed, you are responsible for everyone that comes through the door and want to achieve their goals. And for the past, well, my term is coming to an end soon. And I like the fact that I see persons, what is the word I want to use? I see persons that are determined to achieve their goals. And it's important to them. Just like it was important to me when I started and somebody saw that skill in me. And every time I listen to an icebreaker, it tells me a story, because the icebreaker speech is one of the most vulnerable speech that you'll ever make in your life, because you're opening up to
Putting
people that
yourself
you
out
don't
there.
know. That's correct. And so when a member shares their icebreaker story, that for me is my catalyst to say, how can I help this person to achieve, whether they're stuttering, whether they have pronunciation issues, whether they have self-confidence issues. That's my role as a VP Ed, to help them get there. That's something that I don't take for granted.
When you think about it, Liz, it's almost like a master mentor. Kind of helping everyone, understanding why they're here, and then helping to kind of chart that roadmap. You know, how can I help you get to your specific goal? That's actually quite tremendous. And from someone who has seen you in that role, I think you've really taken it to a whole different level. So I'm interested in understanding, what is your strategy? How do you do that? What's the process that we go through? If you had to tell all our VPNs, this is what you need to do, especially those coming on in our new year, tell us what would be that process?
Well, you know, I don't have a process. I don't, I really don't. I get up every day and I will be, some ideas may come to me maybe at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the mornings, some
Inspirational.
crazy time. Right. And I just get up and write it down and go back to sleep. And I'm really blessed to have as a support our president, Toastmaster Corinne Thomas, who is also another mentor. And you know, I'll bounce them off Karen, and she'll say, you know, Liz, yeah, that can work, or she said that can't work, or whatever it is. But one of, at the center of whatever we do as VPN is to ensure that we have the members' interest at heart. First and foremost, over anything else, is just to ensure that we have their interest at heart. And as a, what I would say is a strategy. The first thing that I did as VP Ed before I did anything else was to reach out to all the members. I think it was 30, I think it was just about 30, over 30 at the time. And I called every single member and I said
Did
to
you just
them,
say call?
all of them, every single one.
All right.
And I said to them, what's your Toastmaster goal for this Toastmaster year? And they would share with me what their goals are. Some say, you know, Liz, based on my demand, I can do one project. Some say I want Triple Crown. Some say I will complete a path. And I wrote it down. I communicated that to them by email. I said, this is your goal. And I've kept that spreadsheet and I continue to work with it. So every now and then I look back at it and I say, you know, you're close, you have achieved, you have some ways to go. And that is most fulfilling, to see persons say, hey, you know, I achieved the Triple Crown, I achieved whatever it is that I set out to do. And I guess that would be my strategy, I'd say, to have at the center.
You know, I particularly spoke about the call is because I wanted to drive home how important that particular attribute of yours is called commitment. To call 30 different people when you have a busy schedule, and I'm pretty sure they do too, and still talk with them, try and help them understand and confirm what their goal is, document that, and then build out a plan to help them throughout the year, that can't be easy. So kudos to you, major claps for taking that on. And I really do love that. And I'm definitely looking forward to you being in a position to share this outline, maybe even the template with other vice president educations coming up in our new year. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm also interested in finding out a little bit more, Madam Lis Nerahoo. I know that you are one to come up with the most creative themes ever. I don't know how you do it. So tell us, what is your source? How do you come up with these creative themes? You share with us.
You know, I tell you, Melinda, I have to give credit to the Lord because I don't know how I come up with them as well. Sometimes it's just by having a conversation that I will, we're having a conversation with someone and they will say like one word and I'm like, hey, that can work, you know, like this and the creative, because one thing that Toastmaster promotes is your ability to be creative and to ensure that the member experience is really good. Now, I have a personal saying that I don't do ordinary, and you probably some persons may have heard.
For sure.
Right. So I apply that in Toastmaster. So if I can do something really different, that person's at a company that I used to work, they used to have a term called what the wow factor. If you can allow persons to say wow, you know, and create in their heads a memory that can influence their lives, I think that is really what drives it. But I think the Lord has provided a lot of insight and we have done some really crazy themes.
What's the one that is like most memorable or that has had the greatest impact? That may be a difficult question given all of them, but share with me the first that comes to your mind.
The first one that comes to mind is the one where we transformed the room to a beach. I think
I remember, definitely remember that one. Life is a beach. I will never forget.
Life's a beach. That's correct. And sometimes I struggle to come up with a theme, but I think the Sergeant Arms at the time was thinking of doing hot dogs and chips. I believe it was, right? And I was saying, but hot dog and chips, that's so simple. I want something wow. And then I say, hey, you know, what's Life's a Beach? And then we all came together. Then I had the idea that our Toastmaster today should have coconut, the coconut. And I got a coconut for the Toastmaster of the day with a little beach umbrella on there. Toastmaster Carol as the Toastmaster of the day. And then we had the Hawaiian beach with the little thingies around your neck, correct?
I still have mine, by the way.
Right. And then because actually I was looking through on the internet and I saw they had like these beach sessions, Hawaiian beach. And so I just hurried and bought some stuff from Amazon. And then we had Toastmaster Denny. She's very creative. I don't know how she came up with that, the beach blanket and the hammock and everything. Everything just fell into place. And I was like, man, this is amazing.
You know, it's important that you mentioned that, Liz, because you came up with this amazing theme, but you were also able to partner with the entire dynamic family, galvanize everyone to come prepared. I think some persons had on their beach dress, well, not the bikini part, but of course, above the back. But everyone was well decked out and ready for it. So that was amazing. And thank you for bringing that memory. It really was a fascinating meeting. I'm happy that I was a part of it.
Thank you.
I know you are a project manager by profession and you actually project manage everything down to your wedding. I'll never forget that. Tell us how project management is aligned to your role as a vice president education and Toastmasters overall.
Okay, like in project management, like all projects, there's a definite beginning and definite end. And I treat my role similar in terms of all aspects of project. In terms of my committee, my education committee they're my key stakeholders. and I bounce stuff off them before it's implemented. And they will also share ideas with me. So I really depend on them a lot. Then in terms of the communication that we use in project management, the same thing that I apply to my role. We have goals to meet, and also so that is applicable. But you can apply project management skills straight across the board, because once you become trained in project management, you really don't go back to being ordinary, if I could say. So I use all of those skills, all the key areas in project management, and apply them to the role as a VP Ed, and that has really worked out for me. And even some of the results I was sharing with someone this morning, that even having the nearly 50 now education awards is a shocker for me, because I would never in my wildest dream imagine that that I would see 50 education awards. So that I think is attributed to using the principles of project management.
Yeah, before we move on, you have to speak some more about these 50 education awards. Come on, like tell us more. Like 50 awards, explain to anyone who may not be aware of what these awards are for Toastmasters.
Okay, so it's what we call the Distinguished Club Awards. And the education team is responsible for 6, we call them DCP points. The education team is responsible for 6 of those 10. And that's what because I wasn't aware of it before. I mean, maybe I just took it for granted because I was just doing speeches. But Toastmaster Alston Watson was the one who pointed out that the VP Ed role is very demanding, because you're responsible for almost what we call the lion's share of the DCP points. So I kind of prepared myself mentally that I'm going to have most of the work to do to get those DCP points. So technically, if we got these 6 points, we would have been okay. But what it meant from an overall perspective, if you were looking at it from a more macro perspective, is that if you achieve it and stop, then more than 50% or even say 80% of your membership would not have achieved their goals.
Right.
Right. So the strategy was that we wouldn't leave any member behind. So we would give to Caesar what is Caesar's. So we would give to Toastmaster International their 6, but 6 was not our goal. We were focusing more on our members and their personal development. And so that is why we ended up at the near 50. So which is how much time more than nearly 5-point-odd times more than what we're expected. But we have more happy members, more motivated members. And when you have happy and motivated members, you get more members, because they realize that Toastmasters is a program that can help. And that's one of the reasons I really believe in this program. And going back to when Alison said to me, I see that you have achieved your goal. As a management consultant, I realized there's a world of opportunity out there, because persons need to there's always a need for personal development in terms of leadership, and there's need for personal development in terms of how we communicate. And we see that every day in corporate, we see it in the universities. And I think it's a niche that as Toastmasters, we can capture and get more persons to achieve their goals. And persons will come to Toastmasters and they will achieve their goals and they will move on. But we want them to leave with a feeling that, hey, this is an organization that helped me and it can help you.
That's amazing. That is so very well put. And the year is not finished yet. So I'm hoping you'll tell us that, well, we're now at 60. You never know. So a major kudos to the Dynamic family for this great achievement. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing of even greater things in the upcoming Toastmasters year. So there is one question that I've always wondered, Liz. You know, you serve in so many different capacities outside of Toastmasters, and you've been a stronghold within the organization itself. How do you do it? Like, how do you find time? How do you make it all work? You please share. I would love to hear those tips.
I ask myself that question. I ask myself that question sometimes, and I say, Lord, it must be you, because I don't know how I do it. And I go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. Everyone who knows me, that at 9 o'clock, I'm so not there.
But tell us
So
about when you get up.
but yes, I'm definitely a morning person. I
Mhm.
get up at 5 o'clock every morning. And you'd ask a question about using project management
Mhm.
skills
Yes.
in my role. The time management aspect is most important, because I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I prepare meals and everything, and that's done. Then I get to work. And then during the course of the day, if I have any downtime, like so your day is like peaks and valleys. So
Okay.
you look out for the peaks, and you also capitalize on the valleys. So it might be that you might have a downtime. So I would just put the agenda together, because even sometimes, even when I'm like driving to work, I'm thinking about, what's the themes going to be for this week, how many persons need to achieve their goals. So I have that somewhere in my head, or I might scratch it down on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I kind of use that time to kind of prepare, or in between my day.
Okay.
The weekend, sometimes when we don't have meetings, is a great time also. And instant messaging helps a lot.
I agree. We definitely see a lot of messages. Yes.
Right. So that's pretty much how I manage my time.
So what I love about just this discussion with you, Liz, is I recognize it starts off by understanding what are we going to achieve at the end of this Toastmasters year, and that is defined based on the objectives of every single member. So even putting together the agenda, while you'll have some of the regular issues that many VPEs face, persons volunteering, it's no longer the same for dynamic speakers because you already know where everyone wants to go. So you have that to begin the conversation and getting them signed up for that particular meeting.
That's
So that's,
great.
that's amazing. And I really hope a lot of vice president educations out there just take note, because if you're focused around the members, then the work is not as difficult anymore. So that's amazing. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing that key point with us. And time management, as you mentioned, trust me, I think every single role, every single person, inside Toastmasters and outside, needs to master this. So that's definitely a key point for us to learn from you. And for those who are not early risers, this may be an opportune time to start getting there. But thank you so much for that point. If you had to share with everyone out there in podcast land who is not a Toastmaster, just the main reason why they should jump up and join, what would you say?
I would say go right ahead and join, because there is a world of developmental opportunities in Toastmasters. I've experienced it. And interestingly, I was sharing with someone who was doing a 12-week course with an organization.
Okay.
And I said to them, and the cost of the 12-week course was quite expensive. And I said, you can get a lifetime of developmental opportunities, free access 24 hours a day for a quarter of that price. And you get a mentor for free. And you have resources that will last you a lifetime. And I said, what we charge in Toastmasters for that developmental opportunity, you don't get that anywhere else. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, go and check it out for yourself. And he did. He joined Toastmasters. And that's what I would say. I mean, it's a program that I believe in. A lot of organizations, when cost, and especially now, we talk about downsizing, even worse now since COVID, the the first thing that usually gets cut is training budget, right? And so organizations sometimes are not spending, they won't spend the time on the leadership or the communication part. That is why Toastmaster exists. You pay 90 US dollars a month, and what you get
A year. Okay.
is just amazing.
Yes, that's perfect, and that's very important to note, Liz, because even in my own experience, the time that I'd have to invest in just a 10-week program, just to rush through and not necessarily get something that is practical, just knowledge, just get knowledge, it is why Toastmasters is different, because you actually get to practice in live right away. You can start applying things, so it really is a great value add. And you're right, what is $90 a year compared to hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 10-week program where you just get knowledge that you go and file in your cabinet or somewhere on your hard drive that you never use. So that is absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And before I ask go ahead, you had a point to
Oh,
make.
right. I was going to support you. Thank you for allowing me the extra time. I was going to support that. We have Toastmaster Vashon, who there's a project in Pathways called the keynote speech, and he delivered a keynote speech while he was in Project One, a brand new Toastmaster, and he just read the project and delivered a wonderful keynote speech to the University of Caribbean Maritime University. And it was the same thing the other day. He went to a wedding and he had to give a toast for his to his best friend, and he used the skills that Toastmaster taught him. And as my mentor always say, Toastmasters don't teach you to be a Toastmaster. It prepares you for outside life of Toastmasters.
Preparing you for the world. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Toastmaster Liz, before I ask my final question, just let everyone know where we can reach you or how we can reach you online or even call. How can we reach you?
Okay. Well, I'm the most accessible person there is. You can reach me, my cell, 876-381-79. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Email, lisnedrick@gmail.com. I'm all over the place.
All right, perfect. And for our final question, how can anyone add value in Toastmasters?
Well, Toastmasters is a volunteer organization, so there is so much things so many aspects to add value to. If you want to focus on the leadership side, which I'm now on, and it's new territory for me to learn the leadership aspects, and I realized that you just set your goal and then you can add value. If you want to be an agent of change, you can change lives one life at a time through Toastmasters. One of the projects I want to work on for the next Toastmaster year is to be able to plant a seed for our younger generation. The Gavel Club is very passionate for me, and I think if we target the high schools students, they'll remember Toastmasters for a long time. And so because I work with a lot of engineering interns, I'm more and more seeing the need for Toastmasters. And so that's going to be my next major project, and I'm just going to use this vehicle of Toastmasters to get that information across using Gavel clubs. So there are just so many opportunities that are out there. It's just for us to just find where it is that we want to create an impact on persons' lives.
So there you have it, everyone. If you want to add value in Toastmasters, just take up a leadership role, set plan, do your research, set that goal, and then go out and make it happen. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Lis Nerahoo, for being our first ever interviewee. This was an amazing session. I've learned so much from you, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the great comments from everyone who will listen to our podcast. Now, I know we have some guests that are on as well, and this is an opportunity to ask any question you may have of our awesome Lis Nerahoo. Do we have any questions at this time?
Only questions, no comments?
No, comments are definitely welcome. So please go ahead and throw them out at me.
I knew also would be the first one to ask.
I was looking at him, Liz, because I was just waiting.
I would just like to commend Liz on her presentation. I like the pace that she spoke. Mm-hmm. It allowed us to assimilate and observe and reflect on what she had to say.
Yes.
And she highlighted something that I wasn't conscious of, is that I need to be careful what I say, because sometimes, you know, you might talk all sorts of things casually, and you're not known, you're not conscious that persons are listening and and filing what you said. So it's a word of caution, and it's also a good point,
Yes.
because when I was making some of the comments to Liz, I wasn't thinking that years after I'll be hearing them
You were
being
planting a
repeated.
seed, Toastmaster
Yeah.
Alston, and it bore fruit.
Yes, and it shows that each one teach one, so to speak, because Liz was the person who introduced me to Toastmasters, and she was my first mentor of many. So yes.
Yes. I
This is
didn't even remember that. Yes,
Yeah.
Alston.
I remember that.
This is so interesting, Liz, because what happened
Yes.
is Alston introduced me to Toastmasters, but when he had to go to Magoti and he couldn't be there for me as he wished, he asked you to serve as my mentor. It's just so interesting, the relationship, right? And then Carol is your
Yes.
mentor, and then D'Angelo is my mentee. It's like a whole thing, and now Aisha is in the mix, and then it's like an amazing a whole mix, and Jean and Javez are all a part of the mix. It's really amazing.
Well, that's really good, right? And you know, we have remained friends over the years. Look at that.
Despite the frequent quarrels.
Oh yeah, because no, can I tell you? No, that Alston reminded me that he was my first mentee. I remember the first time, you know, we sat down and I said, Alston, what's your goal? Alston said, you know, I am going to achieve all of this, like, and he gave a short time period, and he had all the speech titles for his for his for his pen, and I said to him, Alston, you're not going to achieve those in that timeline. He said, and you know, he's very stubborn, right? And Alston said, yes, I'm going to achieve it. And I said, okay, all right, let's see. And by the time he was at number 3, he started changing.
You know, the part that I found very, very interesting is that despite all of this, what Toastmasters also does is that it helps you to build strategic relationships, right?
That's correct.
And beyond just the program, even in the working world, it's really amazing to know that these are all persons that you interact with through Toastmasters. Here are their qualities and how they operate in the actual work environment. This is how they have grown, and you never know where that can take you. So that's also amazing. Amazing point that we've pretty much just demonstrated. So it goes to show that you can't go wrong if you go Toastmasters.
Absolutely, and like I say, we have been like a family over the past 9 years. All right.
Yeah.
And Melinda?
Okay, can I come in now?
Yes, yeah.
Sure.
No, go in.
Toastmaster Liz. Years ago, I've traveled the Caribbean in a Toastmasterly role for quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was in BVI and I attended a Toastmasters meeting. And they were talking about the roles on the executive. And somebody said, I would never ever be the VP Ed, because the VP Ed turns out to be the slave for the club. But how would you react to that? Because I have seen you grow into this role. And what I notice, it is not about getting points for the club. It's about seeing people making their plans, their objectives come through.
Yes.
And I think that is really what makes a difference. But tell me from your heart, do you really think that the VP Ed is a slave for the club?
Well, everything is based on perspective, right? Servant leadership, as our Lord and Savior has taught us, is about service to people. So I probably wouldn't say that we're a slave for the club, but I would put a twist that you are a servant for the people.
Oh,
as you are in any industry. I work in HR. I'm a servant for all the folks that I serve, including Toastmaster Ulster. Right? And and serving as VP Ed is no different from me serving as a project lead. It's no different from serving as if you're a pastor of the church, because if somebody in my organization needs help for completing a form or for career advice, and they send me a WhatsApp message, my responsibility is to ensure that I provide the service to that person. It's the same thing with the role for VP Ed. Everyone who walks through that door has a need.
mhm.
And recently I posted the Toastmasters hierarchy of needs, similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And everybody is at a different stage of their personal development. The VP Ed role is really to be servant for the members in terms
And
of providing that's going to support and development based on where they are in their careers or in their personal lives.
that's amazing. That's a very nice twist on that. Thanks for asking that question, Carol, and thank you so much for that lovely response, Liz. It really, really does add perspective. So as leaders, we're actually chief servants. Mhm.
That is correct. And I want to point out one of my mentee, Toastmaster Nigel, he gave a speech the other day on leadership, and it was the same thing, servant leadership. And he gave the example of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. Now, if that's not service, and in that in the culture at the time, it should be the other way around. You
Right.
wash the master's feet, and it's the same thing in Toastmasters. Once you have that mental approach that you are responsible for serving your members, the attitude towards it is just different.
Absolutely. That's
Can I say
amazing.
something?
I think Toastmaster Aisha has a comment or a question.
Okay. Toastmaster Liz, as I sat here and listened to you, I gathered that you have so much flexibility as Vice President Education. And I think this is what would muster the courage of members of club. Having a VP Ed with this much flexibility, you know, I have not experienced this before. I'm hearing how you're talking and what you're relating, the way how you flex and you assist members in the club, which include your mentees and persons outside of the club, and how you deal with your job. Whereas for my club, I don't think we have that flexibility as much as you want. And I am appalled when you said that every one of us, we are at a different stage in our career. For me, as a Toastmaster, I'm saying, because I have this fear in me, because there's not this, I don't feel this camaraderie among our members. And even if they're seeing that you're struggling, right? No one is assisting you, because they may table you to speak next week, and then for some reason you just call and say, please reschedule me. And nobody would follow up and say, she keep putting off her speech all the time, what is it? And find out. And then mentoring is an important thing. And if you have bad mentorship and you have a mentor that is busy and always travels and it's not there for you, then that doesn't help you. I mean, as a member, you are supposed to show your interest as well. But everyone needs this push. You need a boost. You want someone to read your speech, like what you said Toastmaster Carl would do, and tell you where you went wrong. At least take this out. I don't have that. I mean, and like there are lots of members from many clubs may have been suffering the same fate. So I really admire your flexibility and being able to reach out to persons. I think I can learn from you.
And
Okay,
I think you highlighted something that's really important, and I'll use this opportunity to just ask Liz, club culture. How does one as a leader motivate and inspire everyone to jump on this path and get things done? I know you mentioned that you first spoke to the goals, but how do you see the change in the club culture always facilitating that kind of support system or positive learning environment, which is really what Ralph Smedley had intended when he started this program.
Well, before I answer your question, I want to kind of zoom in on Aisha's comment before.
Mm-hmm.
And Aisha, one thing that you realize, and what you're saying is I absolutely believe it, because I have experienced it myself in the beginning of my Toastmaster years. But one thing that I have realized is that there's always help. There's always somebody that is out there. Toastmaster Carol was not my original mentor that was assigned to me, but every time I did a speech and I was enthusiastic as a Toastmaster, just like Toastmaster Alston was when he became a Toastmaster, and every time I did a speech, by the next day, there would be an email in my box titled Behind the Scenes. I never know this lady from Adams, right? But I would get some feedback. And I would get more feedback from behind the scenes than I would get from my mentor. In fact, sometimes I would send my speech to my mentor and I probably wouldn't even get a response, right? And then I started saying, well, if this person cares enough to spend 30 minutes to send me an email to say, you did a good job here, you can improve there. So I started warming up to her and then, asking her straight up, what you think and whatever. And that's how Toastmaster Carol became my mentor for life. Right. So, right. But the thing about it is that there is always, and I always say the Lord always sends angels, because wherever you are in your path, somebody's always there to help you. Now, because of this pandemic, it has opened up the space now for you to find other persons. I am here. You can always WhatsApp me. I connect with persons all over the world. Right? I'm on social media. You can send me an email. You can send me whatever it is. And I will always respond. That's my commitment. And going into answer your question, Toastmaster Melinda, and Melinda knows this because she sends email whenever time. And she wants to answer right away. Right. It's the same promise that I would do for you, because we are one family. Toastmaster Alston says that we don't join a club, we join an international organization. So we're all family, no matter where we are in the world. So if you need help, somebody to listen to your speech, or some, if I can't do it, I'm sure I can find somebody in our club to do it. So there is help.
Can I just run on behind what Toastmaster Liz said? Pointing to what Toastmaster Aisha also said, I find that Toastmaster Alston, Toastmaster Melinda, Toastmaster Liz, my family members know these people. They have never met them in person, yes, but they know Toastmaster Alston, Melinda, and Liz. We are like a family. And I think if you sort of try and build that family spirit amongst a few people, camaraderie, it really and truly helps. Yes, Liz will say Carol is her mentor, but believe you me, she has played that same role as a mentor, notwithstanding she's my mentee. There are things I go to Liz with that Liz will help me with and point out and say, Carol, that is foolishness. And I'm suggesting this. Yes, we are like family. And I'm telling you, my helper knows Alston and she has never met him. Okay, so camaraderie does a plays a very important role in this whole matter of, building your personal development and growing as a Toastmaster. I do think so.
And that's why it should not be taken for granted when we say Toastmasters family, our community, because that's really what we are. So that's a very important point, Toastmaster Aisha. And now you have an extended family that you can reach out to whenever you're ready. So you're never alone. We're in this
Absolutely. Sending virtual hugs.
Oh God. So That's pretty much it for now. Does anyone have any final comments? Any questions? All right, so I think that's it. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us this afternoon for our Let's Talk with Mel's first episode. And I am super excited and so happy that Toastmaster Lis Nerahoo has given her time to be a part of our show and our first ever interviewee. It was definitely a pleasure interviewing you and hearing so much about what you've done. And I'm definitely looking forward to interviewing you in future. So thank you so very much, Toastmaster Liz. And thanks, everyone. Until next time, keep it awesome.
Awesome. Great. Take care. And thank you so much, Toastmaster Melinda.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Good night.
So